I'm Myra Seha, and you're listening to Venture Unplugged. From deep tech crypto to direct-to-consumer brands and products, each week we dive in deep into the lives and challenges of today's most successful founders and investors. New episodes launch every Tuesday. Sign up for our newsletter at ventureunplugged.com and subscribe on iTunes or Spotify. Follow me on Twitter at MyraSeha007. I'm so excited about today's episode with Nguyen, the founder of Republic. In this episode, we discuss why he launched Republic as a way to democratize fundraising, what the future of cryptocurrency investing looks like, what best tips he has for founders trying to manage stress, and how he finds happiness. This episode is brought to you by Qtum. Qtum is the first proof-of-stake smart contracts blockchain. It has been around for over 2 years and has over 4,000 nodes around the globe. If you're tired of paying high fees on other smart contract platforms, head over to qtum.org. That's QTUM.org and start building your own low-fee Solidity smart contract today. This podcast is co-presented by BlockWorks Group and Republic. BlockWorks Group is a blockchain events and media production company. For exclusive content and events that provide insight into the crypto and blockchain space, visit them at blockworksgroup.io. Republic is an investment platform that helps companies raise capital from retail investors. For more information, please visit republic.co. Welcome to the show. In this episode, we get to know Nguyen, the founder of Republic, on a deeper level. Most of you might know that Republic is a crowdfunding platform, yet it is also a full-stack investing platform for private fundraising and crypto fundraising. Additionally, Republic has its own token called the Note, and we are providing a free token grant on this show. Details will be in our newsletter. Republic has raised from renowned investors like Binance, Global Capital, and Angelist. Prior to Republic, Ken was general counsel at Angelist and helped to launch CoinList and SAX Capital. He earned a law degree from Boston College. Now, enjoy the show. And if you like this episode, share it with a friend. And remember to subscribe and rate us on iTunes or Spotify. And don't forget your extra note tokens by signing up for our newsletter at ventureunplugged.com. Hi, Ken. It's so great to see you again today.
It's wonderful being here. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, you're somebody who I've always wanted to have on the show because you're somebody who I admire, not only because you're such a visionary in building your company, but also because you're one of the most genuine, authentic, and energetic people that I know.
Well, thank you for that generous introduction. I want to say that I did not pay you for that, which is very good friends.
Now, what I want to get to know here is the real Ken. Who is Ken? Where did you grow up? Tell me a little bit more about your early childhood days.
So I was born in Vietnam. My whole family moved here to the Bay Area in the 80s, in the 90s, in the early 90s. And I'm the last one of 5. And, you know, as most Asian immigrants to the U.S., there's like an expectation that you got to do either science or math because parents want stability. They want to be able to see what their kids' life would be like in 20 or 30 years. And so, I ended up pursuing science as an undergrad and a law degree for a professional degree.
And most people in our audience know Republic, but what they don't know is your founding story. Talk to us about why did you decide to launch a company in this particular environment and in this particular field? It did go back to growing up as an immigrant in the Bay Area, surrounded by stories of companies private companies going public, and all of these, the enthusiasm, the excitement around it, but not actually ever having the opportunity to participate, nor any one of my siblings, nor my parents, and the notion that like, hey, somehow I'm in the ecosystem, but I'm not part of it. And I think some of it subconsciously stayed with me as I became a lawyer. And when there's an opportunity to join Angelist, the ethos there is to democratize investing, making, at least in the early days, making it possible for at least accredited investor to be an angel investor. And so I was like, wow, this is one business model, one mission that solved my
problem, my insecurity from the early days. And so I joined Angelist. I was hooked. And when the law changed that allowed for anyone, any net worth, any income, to invest if they can afford $5 or 500 or 5,000 in businesses that they believe in, I really think that that's the true potential of entrepreneurship, which is a shared economy.
And what has been the hardest thing about launching a business?
Wow, we've about 3 years in, and it's been, looking back, it's even harder than I had expected, and I knew it was going to be hard. I gotta say, the hardest thing is that it literally takes 100% of your energy and headspace and commitment, and so it doesn't leave a whole lot left for even maintaining existing friendship and relationship and family, much less building new ones like dating. That'd be that's so that incompatibility between all in on one thing and a human desire to nonetheless maintain relationship outside of that focus.
Wait, Ken, so does that mean you're single? Because I'm single, which means we should both help each other out.
Definitely, and for sure. If I'm happily pseudo-single in the sense of like, when you say that you're single, it means that you gotta be, I think the traditional notion is that you're looking. Mm-hmm. But I know that right now, if I were to be whoever I'm dating, if I were to be dating, would not have much happiness, and I wouldn't be a happy person either, because I don't have a lot to give. I don't have a lot of attention span, room. I would always prioritize, I have been, and in the near term, work. And it's like a sick baby. There's always something wrong, or like the latest snafu. And so whether a long vacation or a dinner plan, all of those things are compromised. And so it's somewhat of a deliberate decision to let's put that on hold until Republic is in a healthier stage, or a stage where I have more headspace to pursue that. I think in the near term, I just want to be able to see my parents more, see some of my closest friends more than once a year. And once that's doable, then we talk about pursuing serious relationships.
Now, you've seen a lot over the last 3 years. What are your thoughts of how the industry has changed?
Well, there's one thing for sure. It's, the arc of history always bends toward progress and inclusion. It's a bit more fair. It is indeed easier for founders outside of the Silicon Valley ecosystem to access capital sources. You now begin to see major billion-dollar funds led by women. We have noted podcast hosts like yourself. So I think the gender inequality, as well as inequality in other aspects, we're seeing that shift. It's not nearly enough, and there's so much more work to get done. But there's no question that people are expecting that, and things are progressing at a pace that, quite frankly, more than I expected.
The sense of equality or justice that you talk about, do you think it's innate, or do you think it can be taught to people?
I think the sense of equality or a sense of fairness is a human nature. Surely there are, rare cases. We all want to be treated fairly. And I'm a firm believer that it's not so much about how much money is in your saving account or what your paycheck is that dictates happiness. It's more about whether you feel it's fair. And so if you're making X dollar and everyone on your block is making 1,000 times as much, then you're naturally not going to be nearly as happy as someone making 10 times less than what you make. But on a block or in the city, that everyone is very much on the same lifestyle. So yeah, I think it's not only is human nature, it's instrumental to happiness.
Can you tell me about somebody who maybe has come on your platform and whose life has been transformed because of this unique access?
Some of the founders, so about 40% of the companies that come to Republic have already been backed by VC. But that means 60%, they're coming to Republic to raise the very first capital. And it may be because they've been overlooked due to their background. It may be because they're building a business that is going to be a healthy business, but not going to be worth $100 million. And therefore, they wouldn't fit the lens of venture capital firms. So there are countless examples, not countless, but about 80 founders that fit that mold that have raised on Republic. One story, and I think she, in many ways, I'm such a fan, and she really taught me a lot indirectly, and I'm not sure even if she knows it. Martha of a startup named MaidBoss. And, here's a mom and working and building her life, but in her corporate work, look at her fellow colleagues and see how she can make their life better by training, by mentorship, and based on that desire to improve people's life, create this business model and turn it into a startup. And we did raise the very first $80,000 for her to finance her business. And I would not be surprised if, 20 years from now, she'll be the next president or your senator or governor or whatever it may be.
Talk to us about your fundraising journey. So you've raised capital from venture capitalists. What was that like? What were the challenges there, and what advice do you have for founders?
I've been so lucky. I think my life is just a story of one door that opens and that leads to other doors. But Angelist seeded us. That's an insanely fortunate story because at the outset, you don't have to powder pavement to build your product. But even with that heritage to Angelist, and they put in a substantial amount of money on day one. When it came time for me to raise the next round, I ended up pitching. I believe I did about 200 meetings and pitches over the span of about 6 months. And most, not all, but most VC, there's either a direct or indirect connection to. And it kind of exemplify how even someone as fortunate as myself can have that much difficulty dealing and spending so much time and inefficiency dealing with a completely outdated fundraising model. But we got that done.
A year and a half after launching Republic, you decided to add a crypto component. Who were your first backers that gave you that validation to enter a unique market?
There were two main ones. The first one was Naval, and he got me involved with Andy Bromberg and Paul Manchoff, and a couple other people as the early founding team for CoinList. When we launched, or we had the plan to launch our own token, Binance Labs were the first investor, and Ella Chang and Christy Choi and Tech Chia, their expertise, their belief in what we do, gave us the encouragement and the validation, and I'm so thankful for those 5 individuals particularly.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the companies that have raised on your platform related to crypto?
In my opinion, blockchain is just a technology. A crypto project is just another startup. In the same way that we fundraise for drone and AI and SaaS and restaurant, we do the same for crypto projects. There's only one differentiator here, one main one. Most of these crypto projects want to sell tokens. These tokens gotta get into the hand of non-accredited, non-millionaire individuals. And our platform is one of very few ways they can do that in a cost-efficient and timely manner.
What are your thoughts about the current regulatory environment when it comes to crypto?
It's messy, it's unclear, it's thoughtful. How is that not an oxymoron? Well, because the whole industry is still trying to take shape. There hasn't been a real use case, but there's clearly a lot of potential. So if those of us, investors and creators and evangelists in the private sector, still are confused or unsure about when these things are going to work for real, of course regulators in DC are also confused, but they're not taking any drastic actions, and they just let the current laws apply and let us, people who are out there building things, decide for ourselves if we are in compliance or not. So the lack of clarity, I think, is actually reflective in a very thoughtful way of the state of affairs in crypto.
How do you see the U.S. remaining competitive given this uncertain market here versus you've talked about Vietnam and other places?
It's fascinating. I caught up with a very well-known crypto investor, a fund manager. And just yesterday, and he was commenting on how in Asia, where the environment has been a lot more relaxed, that people are beginning to come to see that crypto projects and exchanges are scams because it lacks fundamentals and it's just pump and dump. And so I'm not so sure that the more thoughtful approach in the US necessarily means in the long run that we're going to lose out. Maybe right now a few projects would rush overseas or avoid the US market, but ultimately, as the industry matures, this market, I firmly believe, will continue to be the focal point of innovation, and blockchain is no exception.
You have been on this entrepreneurial challenge for quite some time. What keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? So last night, it's a rare thing that stress keeps me up at night, but last night, I woke up after 3 hours because I guess I've been dealing with a lot this week. Since we're building a model that requires mainstream adoption, if you're a little bit too early, that may be like the death knell. So whether or not you're too early, just right on time, or too late, you can only tell in hindsight. I think that we're like right on the dot, but surely there are days that I'm like, people are still asking me, what does it mean to invest? Are we too early? So I would say that that's the number one thing that crosses my mind here and there.
You talked about founder stress, and I talked to a lot of founders who deal with it differently. What is the best way that you have found to deal with it? Do you have a coach?
I actually don't. Not only that I don't have a life coach, and in the past I had mentors. The oddest thing, I usually internalize problems and resolve them without ever asking someone, here's my problem, what would you do? And it may be a shortfall, but I usually, for example, I do from time to time come to you, Myra, and say, hey, these issues here and there, but I would never present it as like it's a serious problem for me. But in the back of my mind, that may be the case. I take what you say and then I'll come back. So how do I navigate founder stress? I think having an amazing team of advisor, of partners, of colleagues makes all the difference. It makes the journey a little bit less lonely. because things do get really hard. And when you're in a room with good people, solving a problem together, it doesn't matter how big the challenge is, it makes it a little bit easier. And I am fortunate in the sense that I do have a vast network of not only friends and family, but Republic today, between partners and colleagues, is a sizable group that doesn't matter what city I'm in, what time zone I'm in. I can always find incredible people to spend time with. This session is one.
Now, a quick word from our sponsor. In addition to being one of the best smart contracts blockchain in the world, with extremely low fees and easy-to-use platform, Qtum's proof-of-stake system lets anyone stake with as little as a fraction of a Qtum. To learn more and start building today, go to qtum.org. One interesting experience that you and I had talked about before had to do with your bedtime habits. You described one time to me this meditative state that you go into every night that I think may perhaps also help you sleep less than normal people. You sleep very few hours, and yet you seem so restful in the morning every time that I see you. Can you describe to the audience a little bit of that process that you go through at night?
I take this bookend method in that 15 minutes before falling asleep and 15 minutes waking up in the morning. Not only that I don't, check my phone, read books, or anything like that, I try to undo my own identity. That is, start thinking of hey, I'm really not a fill in the blank, a lawyer, a founder, a New Yorker, a Vietnamese, not even a male or a person, and just things, a collection of cells, and undoing that identity and falling asleep usually makes me sleep exceedingly well. And in the morning, similarly, kind of all right, my gut reaction is to check my phone and on Slack, and I try to take a few minutes to reset myself in the world before start with the chores and what have you.
If you could travel back in time, what would your current self tell your 25-year-old self?
What if I'm 24? I'm kidding. Definitely not. That one day that I would say don't worry about so much, and that one day I in fact would be in tech as an investor or as an entrepreneur. I actually secretly always wanted to do that, but for any number of reasons had to go through a relatively long journey between being a lawyer, going back to teach law full-time, going to finance, before making the leap into tech. I think in those years I was oh God, how do I make my way into Silicon Valley? Maybe I'm just destined to be a lawyer in Wall Street. I think that assurance would have been nice.
If you had to do it all over again, would you still go that roundabout way?
That's also a tough question. You asked a really difficult question, Myra, in a good way. Even though my gut instinct is to say no, but this long around way have yielded not just friends and life experiences, but skill sets without which I could not and cannot do what I'm doing now at Republic. Somehow, from the law to the teaching experience to being on the investment side in New York, each element now has a crucial role in helping me navigate the issues at hand day to day in 2019. So no, I actually would do exactly what I did.
What scares you today?
This interview, being too vulnerable in this interview. I really don't operate. I don't go through life with too much fear, not even too much worry. Certainly very, very little sadness. So I'm not sure that I have a fear, not even the fear of death.
Really?
That may change over time, but currently, no. And not even the fear of failure.
That's so interesting. And I do agree with you. I mean, I've seen you in action, and I agree in your assessment that you're one of the rare people that goes through life with very little turmoil, which is very admirable. There's
actually one constant. If I have to answer that question in the affirmative, then there is a fear, which is the lack of headspace and the need to get things done. I think I sometimes worry that like close friends and family, or just friends in general, think that I'm either don't care or too robotic, not knowing that I actually do care deeply.
What is one lesson you wish you would have known earlier?
It's not about getting things done that would make you most effective or happy. It's actually slowing down a little bit, and simply by just breathing, if you notice that if you can reduce the number of breaths that you take in a minute down to like say 20 or 15, it naturally forces you to like take a step back and you just notice more. And yeah, I think had I done that sooner in my 20s, I would have been even happier and certainly even more effective as a person. I think we, as a society, as a culture, value too much on just grinding and getting things done as much as possible, and it's not correlative to efficiency and happiness.
And for founders, what is the best piece of advice that you would give them?
Don't believe in the narrative that as a founder, you gotta suffer and that it has to be a miserable, stressful experience. If you feel so stressed out for 1 week, and if you act like an asshole or an a-hole to other people, you're doing something wrong. You're not serving anyone well. Unless you're happy, unless you can control your emotion and be happy within first, you're not your optimal self and you're not solving any problems in the world. And I think that's one of the big misconceptions in Silicon Valley, that founder unhappiness is just an assumed fact of life, and it is not.
How do you recommend people cope with it? Founder unhappiness?
Well, happiness, that's a timeless question, isn't it? That is, I imagine people 1,000 years ago and 1,000 years from now, whether you're a founder or a celebrity or a teacher, will always be asking about how to cope with unhappiness. I think the more that you're you got to be very much all in, buy into whatever that you're doing to give it your all, but you got to also have an awareness of how small you as a person are in the world, in the universe. And in moments of stress, unless it's like physical pain or like migraine or something like that, just take a deep breath and just look at where you're sitting, a tiny speck on a rock that is a tiny speck in the giant solar system that's in a even more vast galaxy. Everything is going fine. Everyone is having a great day, and you're having a bad day. I think it's just a sense of perspective.
So let's go back a little bit to Republic. You are, for all intents and purposes, an Asian male who has two co-founders that are also male. Now, Republic's mission is about diversity and inclusion. How do you marry the two?
Very perceptive of you, Myra, about my gender and heritage. Jokes aside, we were so lucky. We had two founding advisors, Shah Rose, who founded Women 2.0, back when gender wasn't even an issue in Silicon Valley, and Shiza, who founded the Malala Fund. And the two of them not only help us optically that lay the message, here's a company that cares about diversity and impact and inclusion, but their expertise And what they built or instilled in the company is part of the fabric of who we are today, 3 years later.
Now, if I have this correct, the minimum amount to invest on your platform is around $50. What happens if that's too much for people to invest? I know several people around the world where that might be their entire weekly or monthly earnings. Does Republic provide a solution to address that need?
We do. We're very, very committed to the vision that anyone, anywhere, doesn't matter how much saving they have, can be part of the story. And we're actually using blockchain technology to develop this solution. So essentially, long story short, we're launching Republic tokens. Just think of it as like digital point, airline mileage point. But that whenever a company sees an exit, a successful case on Republic, that we're going to send back that revenue to the token holder. And we currently are giving away these tokens. We're not actually selling them. And for indefinitely, people can earn tokens just by referring friends, contributing information, participating in the community, so that even if you don't invest a single dollar on Republic, but that you share our mission and our vision, that you can earn these tokens. It's called the Note, N-O-T-E. And in the future, as Republic grows, you actually will be earning dividends and payments back down the road. It's a complex legal framework that we're like 98% there, and hopefully by Q1 we're going to be 100% there and make that a reality for everyone.
That's so exciting. And how can people find out more about that?
It's republic.co/NOTE note. And in fact, anyone listening to this podcast, if you download the podcast, you're going to get a special note grant. And if you just sign up on Republic, you have a note token as well. So go to republic.co/note and learn more on the different ways that you can be in the community and sharing in our growth without actually ever investing a single dollar.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that today. Now, before we jump into rapid fire questions, I want to ask you one of my favorite questions, which is, when was your last moment of peak happiness?
That would be yesterday on my walk to Hero City to film Meet the Drapers Season 3. And it had absolutely nothing to do with Republic or business, which is a moment that I happened to be able to like clear my head, not think about the 300 emails I haven't read or the show that I have to tape. And it was a beautiful day. It was raining in New York. I just got here. And just noticing just life around me, and I was truly happy. Genuinely happy.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, you ready to jump into some rapid fire questions?
So ready.
Awesome. How much do you sleep?
Between 2 and 6 hours a night.
What is your favorite book?
Stillness Speaks by Eckhart Tolle.
Outside of work, what is your hobby?
People. Talking, chatting, spending time with people of all backgrounds.
If you could time travel backwards or forwards, where would you go and why?
Definitely backward. I'm not so much looking forward to the future of 14 billion people living on this tiny earth, but I really want to go back to so many points in history and just ask why. Or like learn, how did you do that? Definitely backward.
Do you believe in God?
I don't. Since I've never met God, I can't say that I believe in it. I want to. Basically, I try not to believe or believe. I love to experience. And if one day I truly experience God or the lack of God, then I just know it then. So I don't have a belief on that.
Do you believe you're lucky?
Exceedingly.
What is the best piece of advice you have for founders?
Have the right perspective is not go all in, but also take a step back and know that the world exists in myriad ways. So don't get too worked up about what you're working on or solving.
Do you meditate?
I do. Not every day, but I do.
AI, scary or exciting?
Scary. Oh, wait, exciting. I would say scary.
You're going to stick with scary?
Scary for a human, because I think we're going to be like pets or like animals in zoos.
Fair enough. Who are founders that you admire?
Naval Ravikant, Jonathan Swanson, one of my closest friends. Yeah, I would say those two.
What is the one thing that you believe in that most people don't?
That every single moment, literally, you have a choice of viewing it as a positive, happy experience or be down and depressed about it, including losing a leg or an arm. So I'm pretty extreme with that viewpoint. It's a choice.
What is the best piece of advice you have for people getting started in crypto?
Take your time. Play with very little money in whatever projects that you like, but don't go all in on any one thing. But you gotta play along. This technology is here to last. Don't stand by the sideway.
What is the biggest misconception that people have about you?
That I'm on drugs, because I'm excited all the time.
I will testify for the audience. He's definitely sober. Would you travel to the moon or Mars?
Ooh, I really want to know what's on the other side of the moon. Really do. So the moon.
What is the most significant thing you got from a mentor?
Affirmations. It has always been affirmations rather than new things or new tools.
What is the biggest drain on your energy?
Sad people or just unnecessary dramas. You know, something like dramas you can fix? Great. Like you feel like you're actually contributing to things. If there are issues and people issues, they're just there and no one can ever do anything about it. I really don't want to be in the room with that.
One word to describe high school Ken.
Overly excited, ADD and OCD at the same time, and I don't think a single person had ever seen me upset about anything, and I can't remember ever being upset about anything the 4 years of high school.
What is your superpower?
I do think I have excess energy. I have excess energy, and so when I'm under high stress, I can focus that and have probably higher output and less sleep than the average guy.
What do you want to be remembered for?
I don't care to be remembered for any particular thing. I think it's about the process. I don't think about or care about legacy. Just the experience that I have now, and let's see what's on the other side of the curtain.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing with me today, Ken.
Thank you so much, Myra. It's been a lot of fun.
In order to receive your Republic token grant mentioned in the show, please go to our website at ventureunplugged.com and sign up for our newsletter, where we will provide exact details on how to receive them. Thanks so much for listening to that episode. New episodes launch every Tuesday at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to continue the conversation, you can find me on Twitter at MyraSeha007, and I'll see you next time.